All right, gonna go live again. 2 days in a row. Is this 2 days in a row? Maybe this is every other day. How's everybody? All right, we are live. I got a short video. This is a follow up into my last one. So if you haven't seen my last one, I'll give you the short story. And the short story is more like a question. And the question is, are you renewable or are you consumable? The things that you do in your life, your people, your jobs, your daily activity. Does your daily activity renew you? Does it renew your spirit, rejuvenate your spirit? Or does it consume you like a battery? Does it drain you down? Monday through Friday, you're drained down and you cannot wait to get back to Saturday just so you could get away from what you're doing Monday through Friday. And which one is it for you? Are you renewable or consumable? And based on that video, I got a bunch of comments from a bunch of people, direct messages, because they didn't want to post them publicly. And it was essentially, what if I'm 40 and I don't have any purpose or passion? What if I find myself 37, 39, 40, 45, 50 years old, and I listen to your video and I realize I'm not passionate about anything? I don't have any real purpose. I am slogging through the week, Monday through Friday, just to get to the weekend to have some reprieve from a life that I ultimately am not satisfied with. What then? What do I do? And that's heavy stuff. And it's the holidays, which makes it even more, makes the weight feel even heavier. And so, look, I'm no therapist, but I have I have worked with veterans for about the last decade, and I have some insight, and I'm going to share my insight, and I hope I find it valuable. So, what do? You have no purpose, you have no passion, or at least that's what you think on the surface, or that's what you feel, and everybody has the right to feel the way they do. And I'm going to relate this to veterans and police officers because that's what I know. And as a veteran or a police officer, your job becomes your identity. So that's one. That's a powerful word, your identity. And I ask yourself along the way, what is your identity? Do you identify as a spouse? Do you identify as a mother or a father? Is that your identity? What is your identity? Stop and think about it. You pause the video. What is my identity? Do I identify as a CrossFit coach? Do I identify as a CrossFitter? Do I identify as a mom bod, a dad bod? What do you identify as? And identity is super important, and it's a great way to begin this introspection. So, what do you identify as? Okay. The second thing is, what do you think your daily purpose is? Now, purpose and passion, they don't necessarily go together, okay? So if you are, let's say you're a teacher and you teach history, your purpose is to teach history, but you may not love it. You might hate it. So what is your purpose? What do you find yourself having to do every day, whether you like it or not like it? What's your purpose? And then the question is, are you passionate about your identity and your purpose? Do your identity, or does your identity and does your purpose give you passion? These are tough questions, and I think we should all ask these questions of ourselves. We should take that moment to really think about our lives and say, what do I identify as? Well, I identify as a father. I identify as a gym owner, an entrepreneur, a business person. I did write a book, but I don't yet identify as an author. I do hope one day to identify as an author. I think maybe there's an insecurity there. I identify as a couple of things that are not so good about myself, some insecurities I have. This is not about me. It's about you. What gives you purpose every day? Well, I have to take care of my staff. I feel like I'm responsible for them. I could have laid them all off during the coronavirus, and I had many people say, "Why did you keep them employed?" But I feel like my staff gives me purpose, and that also gives me passion. My gym gives me purpose and passion. My child definitely. So I want you to ask yourself these questions and write them down. Take a moment. I think this is really important. You can have purpose without passion. You can have a job that gives you purpose, but you could hate it. You could be a parent and not like being a parent, unfortunately, for your child or children. So people, passion, and purpose. Now, why do I focus on these kind of three P's? Well, I think about veterans. Veterans come back from overseas, and they have that taken from them, whether they're retired, forced to retire, or medically retired through injury, and their identity, wearing the uniform or being the soldier or the airman or the marine, that identity is taken from them, and it's like that split personality. They identified for so long, and it was so meaningful that it's really, really hard to wrap their head around the idea that they need a new identity. So, stopping there for a moment, let's say you identified as a spouse, you were a husband, and your wife was taken from you, or you identified as a parent, and your child was taken from you. And I know people in both of these circumstances. You have to find a new identity. You have to. You really have to in order for life to move on. Right? And we could talk about, should I find a new identity, or is it necessary for life to move on, and suicidal thoughts. But this is a more complicated conversation. But on the surface, that identity is super important. My purpose. You got to find a new purpose. If your purpose was your child, and your child's 18 and then left the house, child leaves the house, you've got to find a new purpose, right? You've got to rediscover purpose, and passion is the thing that you find purpose about. Does it actually give you passion? Your child might have given you passion, and then you find yourself working a part-time job just to fill the hours, and that part-time job doesn't give you passion. And the question is, what do you do without it? What do you do without it? Well, I think the promise of the future is really important. The promise of the future. I think about children who grow up in really tough circumstances, like ghettos, inner city. What's the promise of their future? If they look around, what's the promise of getting out of the ghetto? What's the promise of getting a college degree? And for many children in that environment, they don't feel like there is a promise of getting out. And so without that promise, they don't really, why work hard? What's the promise of the future? Well, Brendan Ferreira, he's an army amputee, was blown up in Afghanistan on his second tour. A very close friend of his died. One of his soldiers died. 2 people died right there in front of him. And then he went to Walter Reed Hospital, and he met his wife in the hospital, and they now have a child together, and he's now a CrossFit coach, and he owns a gym. And I can tell you, one of the coolest things about owning a gym is not only employing people. I do like the idea that I provide for other people, but I've had a lot of people in my gym meet their spouses or their significant others in the gym, and I find that really, really cool. I think it's cool to have created something that have allowed other people to connect and have a relationship together that lasts a very, very long time. Brendan may not have known about the promise of the future, but hopefully his anecdote could share the promise of your future if you're struggling right now. Brendan met his wife in the hospital while recovering. If he could take it all back, would he? I don't know if he would. I mean, it's tragic that 2 people died, but, life is complicated, and tragedy is a part of life, Buddha says life is suffering, and Viktor Frankl says suffering, in order for life to have purpose or meaning, you've got to find purpose in that suffering. You've got to find meaning in that suffering, right? You got to make the suffering meaningful. And so if all life is suffering and it's unavoidable and tragedy happens no matter what, a tragedy was likely to happen in Brendan's life, just so happened to be a suicide bomber, and the purpose, the meaning that he got out of that was his wife and his kid in the gym. Isn't that amazing? I know another guy, leg amputee, Jason. Jason's a gym owner. He's got kids now. Maybe none of that would have happened if he hadn't been blown up. Strategies for discovering this. This is really kind of the point of the conversation, because I had people reach out to me and say, well, what do I do if I don't have any passion, I don't have any purpose, and I can't find it, and it's really, really hard? I have 2 strategies for you. One is from my wife, and the other is from me, and there's probably more out there, but these are the 2 that I can think of. And the one is your best morning. This comes from Amanda. Think of your best morning. And in my mind, I think you have a really, really good morning for 2 reasons. One could be the night before. What were you doing the day or the night before? And you woke up and you're like, man, that was just such an awesome day or night. The question is, who were you hanging out with, and what were you doing? What was the environment like? How did you feel? Notice and name. This is a therapy thing. Notice what was around you and what you were doing and who was around you, and name it, how you felt and the things that you were doing. The other half of that is, what are you looking forward to? So if you didn't have a really good night, what are you looking forward to the next day? Are you getting ready for a race, like a Spartan race? Are you getting ready to go to the gym? And you're like, wait a second, why am I so excited? I'm going to the gym. What is it about the gym that makes you so excited? If you're going to a big box gym like Gold's Gym, is it just the idea that you're working on yourself? If you're going to a CrossFit gym, is it the coach or the people that you know that you're going to see that morning and you're excited to be around them? If you're going to a graduation for a friend and you're celebrating your friend, maybe it's your friend that you're excited about. So think about your best morning or your best mornings. Think about that. What happened the night or the day before, or what were you looking forward to that day? And try and discover more of those mornings. Get more of those mornings. Get more of those mornings. And the other thing is people. I believe in the law of attraction. Excuse me. So who makes you feel really great? Who, when they walk into your house or walk into your room where their name appears on your phone, are you excited about? And What is it about them that makes you excited? Is it the way they make you feel? Is it what they do for a living? Is it their success? And get more of those people. Put yourself around those people. How do you do that? You have to enter the world. Now, you could enter the real world or the virtual world. The real world would be going to CrossFit gyms, going to obstacle course races. And I keep saying CrossFit gyms because this is something that my the veterans that I work with and the police officers that I really harp going to community-based gyms. Because in that community-based gym, you'll meet people. It's different than going to a big giant gym and doing curls. Like, you're going to interact with people, and there's shared suffering, and there's a little bit of gamification involved with CrossFit gym. So go to a CrossFit gym, do an obstacle course race, enter the world. Or, if you're afraid of the world, start at home. Facebook groups are really powerful. Facebook groups for widows, for cancer survivors, for parents who have children with cancer. I have a very close friend and their daughter. I'm friends with the whole family, so the daughter and the niece, she's suffering from a very rare cancer, and statistically speaking, it's very unlikely that she's going to live a full life. And I hate to say it, that's just objectively speaking, right? I pray for a miracle for this family all the time, but Facebook groups of families who are dealing with the same thing, that connection to other people can make a huge difference in your life. Or if you've lost a child, groups for survivors are really, really important. TED Talks of survivors or people in similar situations, whether it's veterans or police officers, YouTube videos, virtual therapy and virtual therapy apps and life coaching. Start at home if you're afraid to enter the world. But I really do believe in the law of attraction. And if you find people that are like or act like or make you feel a certain way that you enjoy, find those people and they will lift you up. Action comes before motivation. I want to give you tactical advice. I want to end this with tactical advice, but action comes before motivation, not the other way around. And I've used this example before in another video, and I'm going to bring it up real quick. My child is struggling tying his shoe. He's not going to get motivated to tie his shoe first. He's not motivated. He's afraid. He's fear-based first. When he finally ties his shoe, he will become super excited and motivated, and he'll be excited to tell me. That motivation will lead to him practicing it again and again and again. It's a struggle. It's terrible. It sucks at first. There's fear first, and then there's motivation. It's fear first, and then there's motivation. So if you feel fear right now, that is normal. You have to do the thing first for it to lead to motivation. So here's my tactical advice. Remember the days that you felt a certain way that you really enjoyed, whether it was the night before, the day after, or discover those days. Get more of those days. That's one, the days. Two is the people. Find people, whether it's virtual or in person. People that you like to be around, that make you feel a certain way. Find people. Those people will lead you to things that can develop into your purpose and your passion. And don't forget to tie your shoe. You got to tie your shoe first. You don't get motivated first. You got to tie your shoe first. So you have to do the things in order to find the things. You got to do the things in order to find the things. A little bit of a deep talk 5 days before Christmas, but the holidays are a tough time for a lot of people. There's a lot of people struggling out there. And the last thing I want to leave you with is a lot of people. It's very easy to put up a curtain and pretend to be just fine. And there are a lot of people who are not fine. And so be extra attentive. Don't be extra attentive. Just be attentive all the fucking time. Remember that there are people in your life struggling and you may not even know it. And so be kind to everybody. Never hurts to go out of your way to do a nice thing for somebody randomly, not expecting something back. Because you could save their life. That's it, guys. Deep talk for a Saturday morning. I hope this makes a difference in somebody's life. If you like it, comment, share below, and talk to you later. Bye.